Mute, Pete.
I think I'm unmuted.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes. Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we
see
can.
you too.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, a couple of technical glitches. My pleasure tonight to introduce Lena to members and friends watching on Zoom. Lena was our youth exchange student from Austria in 2016-2017. She arrived at the end of July in 2016, spent the best part of a year here before heading home in early July 2017. And there are many highlights to her visit, and I'm sure Lena is going to mention a few of those tonight. And we look forward to hearing from you, Lena. So I'd like to pass over to you. Please make her welcome.
Thank you. All right, yeah, I'll start right away. So good evening, everyone. As an opening, I would like to start with a quote that I picked up on my road trip to Longreach with Susie and Heather during my time in Australia. A speech should be like a woman's skirt, short enough to get attention, but still long enough to keep it interesting. Let's see if I can fulfill this. I hope you all still know me, but for the ones that don't, my name is Lena Rettenwander, and I went on Rotary Youth Exchange in the year of 2016-17 and was lucky enough to be hosted by the Rotary Club of Mooloolaba. I was 15 when I arrived on the Sunshine Coast, and there I grew into the person I am today. Coming home from exchange is always hard because every exchange student gives their best to integrate themselves into the families they're hosted by or the schools they're in. So when I left the Sunshine Coast after a year of living there, it felt like leaving a home behind. And it is safe to say that your guiding arms and Rotary's helping hands played a big role in making Australia a second home for me. In the first year of being home, leaving Australia felt like a huge loss. It felt like coming back home to Austria left a big hole in me. But looking at it from a more distant point of view now, I can see that my exchange year didn't leave any empty spaces, but created a new space to grow. Especially when I came back to the Sunshine Coast 1 year after my exchange and came to one of your Rotary meetings to talk about what had happened since the time I left, I realized how lucky I am to have so many different people interested in my life. I really felt honored that so many of you showed up to meet my parents, my brother, and to see me. And this is one of the most important things I took away from my year with you, a huge support system. So I'm really thankful for that. But what happened since I visited Australia again with my parents, your winter of 2018? I have to admit it wasn't super easy to remember everything, but it gave me time to, have a bit of a recap, and this is what I put together. So I will just share. So the year of 2018-19 was my last year of school. The year itself was a bit boring, a lot of studying, some skiing, probably more skiing than studying. One exciting thing was the visit of a school friend from Australia who stayed with my family and me for 2 weeks. We went skiing, of course, and visited some places in Europe like Berlin and Zurich. In May, the final exam started, so when they were over, it was a huge relief. It felt like a huge step in my life to leave school, so huge that I stumbled a bit. I just didn't know what to do now. Going from a life in school in which you feel guided all the time to having to make what seems like the biggest decision of your life so far. Deciding what to study is really hard, so I didn't make a choice. I decided to go travel a bit first. So I ended up doing a big road trip with my car, basically living in it. The car was my home for about 1.5 months. The first stop there was Denmark, where I met up with one of my friends that was also an exchange student in Australia. The time I was there. And the second goal was to get to Sweden, not just any place, but the very north, since one of my best friends, also an exchange student, lives there. Some of you might still remember Julia. I stayed with Julia for a week when winter suddenly overcame Sweden and I couldn't go to Norway anymore. So I drove to Finland, took the ferry to Estonia, drove through Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Czech, and finally arrived back in Austria. You would think that after so much time to think while driving the car, I would have figured out what to do with my life, but that was not what it was like. After I came home from my trip, another friend from school in Australia came to visit me on her trip through Europe. And after that, I decided that I wanted to travel more. But since nothing in this world is for free, I had to work first. In December 2019, I started to work full-time in a supermarket, which was hard work from time to time, sometimes working 7 days a week. The people I met there taught me a lot about life, though. Life for them is hard, and every investment of even just $20 had to be thought about. Working here opened some new ways of thinking for me, but also showed me that the position Rotary has in our society, giving back to the community, changing lives, helping those in need, is a very important one. So I wanted to work in a supermarket until May and start my travels then. The plan was to go to Japan, South Africa, New Zealand, and of course, to come back to Australia. However, as we all know, those plans were cancelled by the pandemic that hit us. I was still very lucky to have worked in a supermarket, since I could leave my house every day and keep a rhythm in my life. That really helped me mentally. The start of COVID was crazy in Austria, since the ski resorts were all still open. You might have heard about what happened in Ischgl. COVID spread there very easily. Austria reacted fast and initiated the first lockdown on the 16th of March. We were still allowed to do outdoor activities by ourselves or people from the same household. Everything but supermarkets was closed. The lockdown lasted for about 2 months, and since numbers seemed to decrease, Austria decided to open the borders for summer tourism. So in August 2019, I went on a road trip through Italy for 3 weeks. A friend and I visited Tuscany first, and then took a ferry to the island of Sardinia. It is a beautiful place with amazing landscape and crystal clear ocean water. There, my friend introduced me to the concept of couch surfing. For everyone that doesn't know couch surfing, it is an internet platform where travel enthusiasts offer their spare beds or couches for free. It is a very interesting way to travel and brings you closer to the traditional and real way of living in a country, which you can't experience when you're sleeping in a hotel. My exchange here helped me here too. Meeting so many new people at once when going on exchange taught me to be open to new people, ways of life, and different worldviews. One of the quotes we learned on orientational week was, "It's not better or worse, it's just different." And that's a quote that has guided me through my life since exchange. Being able to stay with locals throughout my trip through Italy was very special. When I returned to Austria that summer, I moved to Innsbruck. I moved into my first own apartment, and Innsbruck felt like home instantly. And this might also be an ability that I learned on exchange: adaptation, making the best of what you're given and saying yes to every opportunity. And since I had a spare couch, I said yes to the possibility of hosting people at my place. I met some very special people that I was able to explore Innsbruck with. All in all, the summer of 2019 was one for new beginnings and new experiences. Since visiting Julia became a bit of a tradition, I went to see her in Sweden again, this time with the plane. I have to say it's much more relaxing that way, less driving. Yeah. In October, I finally had to face life again, and my first semester of uni started. Not only uni started, but COVID hit Europe again too. Looking back at it now, opening the borders for summer tourism might not have been the very best idea. So from the middle of October, the second lockdown started, which meant studying from home for me. Until now, I've seen the inside of university about 3 times, which seems crazy, but feels quite normal for me since I don't know it any differently. So it might be time to explain my degree to you now, which is a harder task than you might think. The degree is called Vergleichende Literaturwissenschaft. So translated, it means comparative literature. The name might be a little misleading, since we don't just compare different works of literature with each other. My degree is a mixture between a lot of different subjects. We learn about media, sociology, philosophy, literature, language, politics, history, and sometimes even biology. We learn about all different forms of art, from literature to film and theater to performative arts, experimental art forms, and even different cultures and traditions. The aim is to give us an overview of how the world works, different forms of hegemony, power structures, and that form society and our way of thinking. The most interesting thing for me in my first semester was to learn about the way language was developed, how everything is arbitrary and random. It fascinates me how such a random system of signs forms our life in ways we don't even realize. How language is the only way we can think, but language is very restrictive in the things we can express. How thus language restricts our thinking, restricts the way we are able to experience the world, but still is the only way to experience it. I'm sorry for this little philosophical excursion, but I get a bit carried away when talking about my degree, since I really found a passion in it. My exchange year also paved the better path for me to understand my degree. Stereotypes and different images of different cultures and traditions determine hegemonial structures. Since I was able to see more than one way of life in Austria, but could also experience life in Australia, I can understand those structures better. One special thing for Rotary Exchanges is that the exchange students don't stay with one family, but multiple. That experience also teaches not to take the life of one family as the standard life of a culture, but helps to find an average way of thinking. Having the opportunity to be brought into a Rotary Club where people from all different professions and ways of thinking come together also helps to paint a real picture of the diversity of a country, instead of having to build the knowledge of a culture around a few stereotypes. Yeah, since in winter 2020 and 2021, everything but ski resorts was closed in Austria, I once again spent more time on skiing slopes than studying, which was a great way to meet people though. The social contacts we could make were very limited, so I was lucky to be able to ski outside. In March 2021, I started my second semester of uni, which was held online again. Even though schools opened up and restaurants were allowed to open their doors in May too, uni stayed closed. And this is a decision I don't fully understand, but I had to take it as it was. The second semester online was harder for me. It was difficult to find a good rhythm. I felt mentally tired and a little lost, even though I still enjoyed my degree. Having to sit in front of my laptop all the time seemed a little pointless. So in order to get back into a routine, I decided to work in a COVID testing station for about 3 months, so until the end of the semester. From July to the beginning of September, I worked as a child entertainer in a kids sport camp, where I was able to spend all my summer outside. When I stopped working, I visited my boyfriend in Livigno, which is a mountain town in Italy, since as a mountain biker, he had to do altitude training there. And right now, I just came back from a road trip through Italy and France again. The same friend I went on a road trip with last year and I decided to go back to Sardinia and explore the rest of the island. After 3 weeks in Italy, we took the ferry to Toulon in France and explored the south coast, which is called Côte d'Azur. It was good to enjoy the sun and the ocean for a little bit. Right now, I'm back in the house I grew up in, spending some time with my family before I go back to uni on the 4th of October. Fingers crossed that this time I can see the inside of university more than just 3 times, but time will tell, I guess. One exciting, long overdue thing happened in my outbound Rotary Club here in Austria. 2 months ago, they finally took in their first 2 women. It is shocking to me that they are not the last club in Austria to accept women into that domain, but that there are still a lot of clubs that only accept men. Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight. It is an honor for me to have been able to do so. If there are any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. And please ask many, because due to COVID and less exciting things happening in my life, my speech unfortunately turned out a little short. I hope you can forgive me for that. Thank you.
Thank you very
So-
much, Lena. Peter, are you going to take questions on behalf of Lena?
Yes, indeed. I just unmuted my Zoom feed, and so I'd like to invite members to pose questions to Zena, to Lena. Kathy.
Hi, Lena. When I was chatting to you on Messenger, you were saying that your granddad had COVID earlier in the year. How's he doing?
He's doing really good. COVID didn't really hit him that hard. So it was okay. It was just a shock at first because he's 86, and so it was a shock when he got it. So we were a little scared, but he's doing good. He's doing good. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, of course.
Lindsay.
Unmute, Lindsay. You're muted. Still are. Try again. Lindsay is still muted.
That was a long, slow process. I'm glad you're still there, Lena. Thank you. I was just wondering, with your uni course, what you're leading into, will that lead you into teaching, or what do you hope to get from your course in long term?
So the course would lead up to a master's degree. With the degree I'm doing now, it's there's not that many great job perspectives, so you can work in a library or something. But with the master's degree I'm doing, I can either go into journalism or publishing or all kinds of different things. But I still have time, so I don't exactly know what I'm going to do with it yet.
Okay, thank you.
George.
George, you're muted too.
I'm just waiting for the hand to make itself into a cursor. Lena, thank you very much for a fascinating talk, and you've certainly made the most of your life since getting back. Given your contact with the health system there, do you have a feeling for how much of the population in Austria have been vaccinated and what their views are on vaccination?
Austria is really far behind in the European Union. I think it's only 58% vaccinated, where in Italy, for example, it's already 78%. But it is because there is a lot of skepticism about it. And interesting, actually, yesterday, a party got voted into a regional parliament that is against vaccination. So it's not a good development. It's a bit hard in Austria. It's not ideal.
Well, anyway, I'm very glad that your grandfather and the rest of your family are okay.
Thank you.
Lena, I understand when you went home from your trip to Australia on Youth Exchange, you took your surfboard with you. Have you had a chance to use it since then?
No, I actually just put it up on my wall. But actually this year in winter, I'm planning on using it for the first time again. So wish me luck. It's going to be really interesting.
That's great. I understand from Dave and Kathy that Lena borrowed on her skiing prowess and taught herself to surf on her time here in Australia and did very well with it.
It was okay. It wasn't super good. It was.
Can I ask a question, Lena? With all the different subjects in your degree, is that, like you said, you could do biology as well as there's history and sociology and everything. You could really take that, as you said, anywhere. Is that because with a name like comparative literature, it just seems very, very broad? So I guess is it the founding year or 2 years is really just to open up, like to give a base of knowledge, and then people can stream into sort of more specialized areas, or?
I think the reason why it is like this broad is because in order to understand literature, you kind of have to understand a lot of what was happening around the time that those books were written. So yeah, in order to understand how that works, you kind of have to understand more of how the world works. So that is what they try to do. But yeah, you can, in the end, you can do a lot of different things following up to it. So you can do either a master in the same degree, or you can go into media, you can go, into every other kind of subject. Yeah. So
how did you stumble on it? Because you took the time off and everything. So what pushed you into that, or what led you to that degree?
I was just scrolling through the degrees that they offer at university, and I saw it, and I thought, sounds interesting. And I actually saw it before I started to take the year off, but then I was like, but it's not going to give me any perspective in life. And then I stumbled upon it again, and I thought, no, it doesn't matter. I find it interesting and I want to do it, and I will find something to do with it later if I like it. And now I'm really happy I did, because I love it. It's pretty, I'm really passionate about it, and it makes me feel good. So I'm glad I did it. And if you're passionate about
choice then.
I think you'll find some way to use it.
Yeah, of course you will. Yeah.
David has a question.
Yeah, hey, Lena. Great, come on.
Hi.
As well. You were in Sardinia in June last year. That must have been during or just after Italy was just falling apart and people were dying like flies. How was it? Was Sardinia protected from that, or was it just dreadful there?
Sardinia there wasn't a lot of cases, but they still had the same lockdown as Italy. So in Sardinia itself, there wasn't really that many cases. And it was really strange that Italy even opened the borders for summer tourism after you saw the pictures of how they had to transport corpses around in military wagons and stuff. But because they already struggled with their economy, I think they just had to open the borders for summer tourism because that's their biggest income. So
probably what was stranger was somebody crazy enough to go there for a holiday while Italy was that's the crazy.
I don't know, it was fine. we were careful. No, we don't really go party when we go on holiday, so it was okay. There was a lot of in Croatia, a lot of clusters in that summer period that came back to Austria and made it even worse. So it wasn't a great idea to open the borders, but I could go to the ocean, so it was okay. A bit hypocrite, but
Thanks, Len.
Do we have any more questions? Okay, well, I might move a vote of thanks. Lena, thank you so much for taking the time and making the effort to come and see us all again tonight. The Youth Exchange program, in my view, is one of Rotary's best, and I have to say we really miss it in this COVID era. Fascinating to hear from you, Lena, and what you've been doing since we last saw you. And you've reminded us how much the program brings to all the people that are involved in it. And I must say, I, for one, really look forward to the time when it will resume. And I'm sure most Rotarians are in the same boat. So, Lena, thank you once again. And I'd like to ask the members to show their appreciation by acclamation. Thank you.
Thank you.